How's it going, everyone? Today's video is sponsored by Woodworkers Guild of America. They are your leading online resource for instruction, ideas, and information. They are a community of passionate woodworkers that come together to express their creativity and to master their craft. Woodworkers Guild of America has a vast collection of videos, tutorials, questions and answers with master craftsmen, and their content is always being updated. One of the things that I have learned with Woodworkers Guild of America is some things about chisels. I just got a really nice set of chisels and they helped me sharpen these things to the sharpest thing that I have ever seen before. If you follow the link in the video description below, you will receive a 1-year premium membership for only $1.49 to Woodworkers Guild of America. Now, who is Woodworkers Guild of America for? It's for beginners, intermediate, masters, and those who are trying to be creative throughout their craft. So ultimately, it's for everyone. So if you want to check them out, check the video description below and receive your 1-year premium membership to Woodworkers Guild of America. Again, thank you Woodworkers Guild of America for sponsoring this video. So let's get over to the build, and I will show you exactly how I turned a picture that a customer sent to me into a piece of furniture. My name's Andy, this is Cedar River Woodworking, and welcome to the shop.
I live inside my own.
So I recently had a customer send me over this picture. Now, they didn't really have a lot of information with it. All they said was, I was watching a YouTube video and I saw this and I love it and I want one. So this is how I turned this picture into an actual piece of furniture. Now, if you recognize this piece of furniture, please let me know who it is so I can tag the creator for it and give them the credit that they deserve for this. So what we are going to do is we are going to inspect this picture just a little bit and figure out what we can do from there. So now that we got all of that out of the way, let's dig into how I turn this into an actual piece of furniture. So I asked the customer where they wanted this to be, and there is a 48-inch place where they want this to sit. So I know that this shelf cannot be any wider than 48 inches. Now they have the entire height of the room that they can work with, so I can put plenty of shelves in here and I can space them out however they would like. I do know that there's going to be some plants on here, and some of those plants are probably about 18 to 20 inches tall. So we know that each one of these shelves is probably going to be about 20 inches. So you can see that there's 5 horizontal boards that make up these shelves. Now, if I'm going to make them 20 inches tall, I need to have the sideboards about 20 inches as well. So with a little bit of rough calculation here, I know that those angle iron pieces are going to stick out just a tiny bit. So I'm going to cut my shelves so they're 47 inches wide. And that will give us about a 1/2 inch on either side that we can wiggle this thing right into place. So now that we got all of that mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's start this build. Alrighty, so here we are over at our miter station where all of our projects seem to start off. We have 4 2x12s sitting over here on the bench. And these 2x12s are going to be what make up this shelf. These are 8 feet in length, so our 47-inch wide shelves are going to be cut out of these 8-foot long pieces. We're going to get 2 shelves out of each one of these, but remember we need 5 horizontal pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to cut the end off this so that I know that it's true and square. And then I have a stop block set over here at 47 inches. I'm going to slide this down and get 47 out of this one. All right, so I have it slid down here to the 47 inches. I'm going to go ahead and make this cut. While I'm making this cut, you're going to see me kind of sweep back and forth a little bit as I cut down. The reason for that is because if this board has any tension in it and it wants to lift or cut down in, that blade is going to cut small slices off of it, so it's going to be less likely to bind. All right, I'm going to cut the other 3 of these off camera so you guys don't have to watch quite as much. I will be right back. Well, there we are with our 5th shelf piece. These are the horizontal pieces that we need. Now we need to make the vertical pieces. If you remember, there were 4 of those, and we're going to cut those at 20 inches in height. So I'm going to set another stop block, and we're going to go ahead and get those cut. Now you might be able to see that I was holding the board here when I lifted that up. When you're using a stop block, it's always a good idea to hold the board that is trapped on the stop block side, just so that the blade doesn't try and catch and give you a kickback. So we already have 3 of these cut out, and you just need to cut out 1 more. All right, so now we have our 4 vertical pieces cut out. Now we need to cut out our aluminum pieces to give us our metal accents on this, to give us this modern shelf. Here we are with our aluminum angle iron, or angle aluminum. What would you call it? Let me know down in the comment section below. Anyways, you can see that it is bright silver right now. We will paint this to give us that dark look that we're looking for, but we need to cut this first and get all the holes drilled in it before we paint it. So a lot of you may already know what the measurement for these are going to be, but those of you that haven't quite figured it out yet, because we are using 1.5 inch thick stock and we want the ends of this to overlap those boards that are horizontal, we need to add 2 thicknesses of 1.5 inches, which is 3 inches, to the height of this. So because our side pieces were 20 inches tall, this needs to be 23 inches tall. Now we are using a stop block for this because we need 8 of these pieces. And you may be wondering, can I really cut this on my chop saw? Yes, you can. Most saw blades have carbide teeth in them, which are much harder than this aluminum that we're going to be cutting. I'm going to take it very slow and be very careful when I'm doing this. This is going to put off some pretty sharp shards. And here we are with the 23-inch piece. You can see the cut quality there is pretty darn good. We will sand this off. We can just use regular sandpaper, just like we would on wood. And before we paint these, I do need to drill a couple holes in here. Wait around and I will show you exactly the measurements we need for that. Well, I did forget to mention, we do need 2 8-foot lengths of these angle iron pieces. These are 1/8 inch thick and they're 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. So that is the measurements of the section of the L's, that 1.5 inches. You will leave a couple little pieces like this left over. And I tell you what, if sawdust isn't just man glitter, cutting aluminum will definitely be some man glitter. Alrighty, so now we need to drill some holes into our aluminum pieces. So these are 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, like I said. We want to drill a hole exactly in the middle of the faces of these. So that is going to be 3/4 inch from each edge. Now that will kind of put it offset a little bit on the inside because you have an 1/8 inch worth of plate going through here. But aesthetically and functionally, it'll be completely okay. Now, I did say that most woodworking tools can cut aluminum like this. I would not recommend using a brad point bit for this project. So that brad point right there will just round over when you try and drive it into this aluminum. So I do have a spiral bit chucked up in my drill press. You do not need a drill press for this. It's just a lot more accurate for me since I have a fence system set up for this. I do have a drill guide like this. I don't necessarily recommend this particular one. I will have a link in the description for the one that I recommend for a drill guide and all the drill bits and everything that I am using. 3/4 by 3/4 is what we're gonna go here. So we're 3/4 inches from the top, 3/4 inches in from the side, and we need to drill holes in all of the sides of these. So we're gonna have 4 holes in each one of these 8 plates. Now you may just have seen that I had the angle iron sitting against the fence like this, and then I rotated it so that this side was not against the fence. That is okay, and it's going to be in the middle of both of these sides. Well, now that we have all of the holes drilled into these angle pieces, I noticed that there's a little bit of sharp edges on here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper and knock down all of these burrs that are on here. And then we will go ahead and get to our next section of this shelf. Well, here we are over at the bench. I've got this kind of laid out in the zigzag pattern that we are looking for, just to see if there's anything that I need to make any adjustments on. It looks pretty good just how it is. I'm actually missing one section just because my bench isn't quite long enough. But I'm going to show you the process that I'm going to attach all of these side pieces and the aluminum pieces to the ends here. So they look like everything is parallel and everything's good. So I forgot to mention that the holes that we drilled in the end of this is a 5/16 inch hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 5/16 inch brad point bit, and we're actually going to, with everything lined up exactly how we want it to be, we're just going to place it inside of the hole there, and we're just going to give it a little tap. What that's going to do is create a small indentation of where we can put a 3/8 brad point bit. The 3/8 is going to give us our threaded inserts. So these threaded inserts are going to be what's holding this together and what gives us the ability to knock this thing down and transport it to different places. Because 3.5 2x12s are a lot of weight. So we want to make this as simple as possible. And I tried to make all of my measurements as close as possible. So if I accidentally get this board over on this side, everything should line up just how it's supposed to. And this 5/16 inch hole, we're actually using 1/4 inch hardware. So that's going to give us a little bit of wiggle room just in case we need to square things up a little bit if the floor is not level, or if maybe this wood has moved a little bit. All right, so now that we have those 4 in here, I set a stop collar on my 3/8 inch drill bit here, and we're just going to go down to that. This stop is set at 3/4 of an inch. So just line it up in the hole there and drill it in. All right, now that we have those holes drilled, I do have a countersink here that I'm just going to round these edges just a little bit so that these inserts will seat in there a little bit better. It doesn't take much to smooth this out. And then all that we are going to do is just drive in our inserts. All right, now that we have these inserts in place, we can go ahead and put our angle aluminum here into place. The screws that I'm going to be using for these aluminum pieces, they are 1/4 inch by 20 screws, and they are 5/8 of an inch long. So I'm just going to dry fit this here together. Now that we have this dry fit here, I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of these aluminum pieces. So there are going to be 8 of them in total. So it's going to take a little bit of time for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that off camera. Well, now that we have all of the threaded inserts put in for these aluminum pieces, now we need to find a way to secure these wood sideboards. How I'm going to do that is also with threaded inserts, because we do want this to be a knockdown style shelf. So I've seen these shelves done before where they just run screws straight into the end grain, and that'll work, except for it's not really all that knockdown rated at that point in time. And I just think that this hardware on here just makes it look just a touch classier. So how we are going to do that is we're going to take that same 5/16 inch bit that we've been using to mark out where these threaded inserts go, and we're actually going to drill down into the face of the shelf, down into the end grain of the wall. So I do have a flag put on here, so it tells me how deep I need to go. If you do have a stop collar for these, this is a great option for that. But if you don't have a stop collar for your 3/8, this flag method is a very good option for that as well. So I want my spacing to be 3/4 of an inch off the top of this edge here. So I just have a 3/4 inch piece of scrap plywood that I'm going to line up with the edge here and draw a couple lines. So now that we have that line established on there, now I'm going to put 2 of these bolts through the face of the shelf here. The measurements of those are going to be 2 3/4 of an inch and 8 1/4 inches. I'm going to do that on all of these shelves all the way down so that, like I said, if we mix and match a couple shelves, it should be okay. And with this drill bit being a little bit oversized for the screws that we are using, there will be a little bit of wiggle room if you need it. All right, I did have this clamped together so that those holes would pass through there nice and smoothly. I'm going to unclamp that, put in a threaded insert, and go from there. So the reason that I did a flag on these is so that I wouldn't drill all the way down into this board. I would just leave a small indentation so that my 3/8 drill bit could fit down in there and I could just match up the points on here. Otherwise, this bit will try and walk all over the place without that front brad engaged into the wood. Well, if you are liking this build so far and you're still here, I'm going to assume that you are enjoying this process. So if you would, please consider subscribing. And if you would like somebody to build this or you want to build it for somebody else, share this with them because then it helps get more views for the channel and helps us grow. I really appreciate it. So now we are going to put our threaded inserts into the ends here. This will also help, instead of doing just screws in the end of here, help these kind of hold, because end grain is really bad at holding screws. So these threaded inserts and bolts help a lot better. Now we can put this down into place and run our screws in. So these screws that we're going to use through the faces of these shelves, they are 2-inch long and they are 1/4-20 screws. They are going to be the same style as what we used for these aluminum pieces over here. Now that we have these screws in the side here through the 2 faces of these 2 shelves, I'm going to continue down the process of doing it in the rest of these shelves here. Once we have all of these inserts put into all of these shelves, I'm going to go ahead and break it all back apart and then prep it and sand it and get it ready for stain. So if you made it this far, how would you stain this? What color would you have this? Would you paint the aluminum brackets, or are you going to leave them bright like they are now? Let me know down in the comment section below. Well, here is our shelf. As you can see, it's fairly tall, and this is still missing one section of shelving. And that's the great thing about this type of build, is that you can add and subtract another shelf or more shelves if you wanted to expand it, depending on the size of room that it is going into. The customer told me that they will be storing plants on this, so I'm going to be staining this in a true brown from Minwax, and then I will be using a polyurethane on top of it. These aluminum pieces are going to get painted black, and that is going to give us that modern look. And then there is one more thing that I added to this that I didn't show on camera, and I put leveling feet on the bottom of this. I did 6 across the bottom so that it can be leveled out to the floor if these boards do ever warp or change, or if the floor is uneven. That will help take up a lot of that. And I did that with the same threaded inserts that we have and then 1/4-inch threaded feet. Now, if you made it this far, let me know if you liked this type of build where I explained how I figured out a build, or would you rather me just tell you the dimensions and show you the build? Let me know down in the comment section below. Anyways, for now, my name is Andy. This has been Cedar River Woodworking, and we'll see you in the next video.